87%. Yeah, that's the percentage of all real estate agents that get in the business today that'll be gone in 2 years. Let me tell you something. Why is there so much turnover in real estate? Because it isn't easy. And because most people don't know exactly what they need to do to get to the next level. Now look, regardless of whether you're brand new to the industry or you're a team leader, you've got 40 people on your team and you just want to get to the next level. If you're doing 10 transactions a year, you want to get to 25. You're doing 500 transactions a year, you want to get to 1,000. You're at 1,000, you want to get to 10,000. Let me tell you something. You need the right coach. Why? Because Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. This is for people of all levels. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% guarantee you, promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did. If you want to close 75 transactions a year and more, let me tell you something. You need to hear what we're talking about next. This is Michael Hellickson with Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting. I've got Scott Love. He's one of our coaches with us. And Scott is an agent in coastal South Carolina who is consistently closing over 75 transactions a year. Well, why is that important to you? That's important to you because as you've heard me say before, what one man can do, another can do. And if Scott can do it, and don't get me wrong, Scott's a great guy. He's a hardworking guy. He's focused. He's disciplined. But let me tell you, if Scott can do it, you can do it. And all you got to do is duplicate what he does. So he's going to share with us today the systems and the technologies that he's using to consistently close 75 transactions a year or more. So first of all, Scott, welcome to Club Wealth TV, brother. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Michael. This is amazing. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. I'm stoked about it. And so, first of all, let's back up. How long have you been in real estate altogether?
4.5 years, just going into our 5th year.
So not bad, right? So 75 plus transactions and just in your 4th year, almost 5th year in selling real estate. That's awesome. And so what I want to know is like the systems and technology that you're talking about. What is really required? What does it really take for someone? Let's say I'm brand new in the business today. What does it take for me to get to 75 transactions a year?
Boatload of work, strong discipline,
okay,
a lot of calls.
Okay.
But when it comes to the software and the tech, I mean, there's no question that we run into agents all the time that are starting their business that don't seem to believe in or have access to a CRM. And it's honestly, with a sales background for decades, I can't imagine working a database of any size without some sort of management system in place and a decent CRM. There's a bunch of them that work in real estate. And so that's the key to any successful business in our world, I'd have to think. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, particularly in sales, but yes, any business, I 100% agree. And it's funny you mention that because I'm on the road all the time and I hear from agents all across the country. And, I do hear from a lot of agents all the time, I would say better than 15 to 20% of the rooms that I'm in don't even have a CRM. And that's a lot. That's a lot of people. In fact, it was an interesting statistic. I was talking to the owner of Lofty CRM, formerly known as Chime, the CRM formerly known as Chime. I think that would have been a cool name for him. But anyway, I was talking to Joe, the owner, the guy that owns that. And he was telling me, he asked me, Michael, how many real estate agents do you think actually log into their CRM on a daily basis, Monday through Friday? Do you know what he told me? What do you guess, Scott? What do you think?
Are we looking for a percentage?
Yeah, percentage. What percentage of agents do you think log into their CRM at least once a day, 5 days a week?
At least, I'd be appalled if it wasn't 85%, but my guess is because you're asking me the question, it's significantly lower.
It is incredibly significantly lower. It is less than 1%.
No chance.
That number blew me away. I couldn't believe it. He says, Michael, out of all of our users, he says literally less than 1% log in 5 days a week. And they're huge. Lofty is massive. They're a huge CRM company. And so if people aren't utilizing their CRM, how do they expect it to work for them? And what's funny to me is, what are you using instead? Like, are they using spreadsheets? I mean, how are they keeping track of people? How do they know who to call? How do they know, what their last conversation was? I mean, this is asinine to me that people wouldn't have a CRM. I mean, that's like the starting point. Now, what CRM are you using?
We're using Follow Up Boss.
Okay. And Follow Boss is a good, Follow Boss is a decent CRM. My personal favorite is Lofty. My number 2 is Sierra. But I think Follow Boss would definitely have to be, somewhere in the third or fourth ranking there for me. But that being said, those of you that already have it now, I'm not suggesting you change. I think that, you should stick with what you got, because a CRM change, it's like a steel wool enema. Just doesn't feel good. It sucks. It's hardcore. So you don't want to do that. So, all right. So talk to us about how it's set up. What's important to you about, the setup of the CRM? So clearly having a CRM is important, but what about how do you function with it? How do you set it up?
It's the key. And so the setup for the team and I is really in its ability. And I only know Follow Boss. And so I'm assuming Sierra and Chime and many of the others do the same things. But from the aspect of how we use it, the term is called smart lists, right? So one of the issues that we had in the very beginning, and certainly we talked to a lot of new agents about, is you've got this database, and even if I have a place to put it, right, God forbid Excel, I don't know what to do with these dozens or thousands of names. Like, who do I call when I come in? Do I call them alphabetically? Who did I talk to last? And so, these tools, these smart lists and Follow Boss, are set up and designed to basically walk you through a path. So when an agent comes in the morning, ours are numbered very simply, basically 1 through 10, right? So you go to smart list number 1 and you call the people that are in there, and it's a smart list for a reason. Ours are new, not contacted leads. So if a new lead came in last night, it's in smart list number 1. Once you've called it, it leaves smart list number 1. Super simple. So after that, you go to smart list 2 and 3, and it leads you through the process of communicating with your new leads and following up with leads that you haven't spoken to yet. Once you've qualified a lead, they become a prospect in our world, and they become in some form of stage, hot, warm, or cold. And then there's smart lists that determine how often you should be in touch with your hots, your A's, your warms, your B's, your C's, colds. And if you just follow that system, at the very least, I have to figure you're in the top 10% of agents just in calling and nurturing the people in your database.
100% agree. It's not complicated once the stuff is set up. Setting it up can be hard in the beginning. And by the way, I'd love to know, what CRM are you guys using? I know we've got a bunch of people watching on Facebook here. And by the way, Serena and Celine, hello to both of you. Celine is saying she loves Follow Boss, and probably almost as much as I love Lofty. I was going to call it Chime. I got to get used to that name change. But Adam looks like he's using Follow Boss as well. So the smart lists are huge. And guys, here's the thing. Again, it's hard to set this stuff up in the beginning, but once you've got it set up, you can make your CRM, you can make those automations in your CRM, create a much more efficient day for you. And that efficiency is key. It's funny, for a long time, people would ask me what I did. And I said, well, I'm an efficiency expert because that's really how I viewed myself. My role was to be as efficient with my time as possible. And my CRM helped me to do that. And more specifically, those automations inside that CRM help me out. For example, when you make that call, that person moves from that new lead stage automatically into the follow-up stage, and you don't have to physically move it. And so you can go in each day and you can determine, okay, well, based on, this hour, I'm going to call these types of leads, and you can kind of rank which ones are going to give you the best results first. And you make sure you're nurturing all your long-term nurtures. And it's all very, very organized and very simple. And especially for people like me with ADD, and Scott, I don't know about you, but when you've got somebody with ADD, it's hard to get organized sometime. Do you suffer I say suffer. Do you have the ADD advantage as well?
I don't know that I do, actually. So I tend to be very analytical and process driven.
Yeah.
And so those people I struggle to work with a little bit because all that stuff kind of comes natural to me. But I definitely have people that are very close to me on my team that are probably watching this live right now.
They are.
I feel the pain.
It's funny you mentioned that because we've got Adam Rodriguez watching, Kimberly McCarthy's watching, Serena Gutowski's watching, and it's interesting. Kimberly was saying, as a member of your team, that the foundation is that the CRM is the foundation. I want to go a little bit deeper on that, because if it didn't happen in the CRM, it didn't happen, right? And we're really hardcore about this, because if you were ever to sell your business, your database is what you're selling. And to the extent that it's organized, that it's accurate, that it has detailed notes, the better your data inside your CRM is, the more valuable that database is.
And so literally everything that happens, every phone call, every text message, every email, every single thing that happens needs to be recorded in that CRM. That being said, the challenge that I think people have, and I'm going to throw this to you because, as somebody who's probably a little higher C than I am on that disc profile, I'm a very high D. I'm just like, get it freaking done, move on to the next thing, let's go. You're probably a little bit more, okay, well, I want to make sure this is just right. I want to make sure that, we're not dropping any balls, checking all the boxes. So how do you balance? I love it. Maria's like, your wife is actually watching right now too. Hi, Maria. And Maria's like, I'm ADD. He's OCD. I totally get it. I'm married to one of those, Maria. I totally understand what you're saying. So how do you balance that? How do you prevent what I like to call analysis paralysis, where you just get stuck in making sure all the data is just perfect and you actually get off the dime and make a freaking phone call?
It's funny. So I have a plaque that I had made, sits outside of my office. I have to walk past it every day. And on that, it says, done is better than perfect. And that's literally speaking, that is my reminder. And anybody on my team would tell you. And I've got people on my team that know that I need to be pulled away from that. We have Maria is one of the best, right? So pull back, like if you're going too deep. My support staff, our transaction coordinator, our admin, often tell me in those meetings, like, you're overthinking it, back away. Let's get it done. So I basically have told people, this is how I am. Pull me away from the process when I need to be.
Yeah, that's smart. What you just said, I want to touch on that because what you just said is so smart, and so many agents need to embrace this. And it's funny because as we're talking here, your team is online. They're all watching on Facebook and they're like, done is better than perfect. They all typed it in before you even said it. And so they knew what you were about to say because they know you well. Here's what I love about what you just said. What you said is, I have someone who gets after me and says, hey, it's time to move on from this task. The thing that I think team leaders in general, not, real estate agents in general, but team leaders especially, I think one of the things that they struggle with is not only delegation, but empowerment. And when I say empowerment, you need to empower your team members, not only to do what they need to do for their business and for the business as a whole, but you need to empower them to control you. You need to empower them to say, to get in your face, to say, hey man, it's time to move on to the next thing. We need to get moving. And to hold you accountable. And I think that the leadership, the people in leadership that learn to allow those around them to hold them accountable at a higher level, they have greater success. I'll give you an example. When I was selling real estate, when I was out listing houses, I had an assistant named Stephanie. And Stephanie was hardcore, man. She was as bad as Tara. And when it comes to, like, I'd come home, I'd have 5 listings and she'd be like, what do you mean 5? Didn't you have 6 appointments? What, one of them not show up? Like, what happened here? Why didn't you get all 6? What's your deal? Like, what I mean? Like, she was just in my face every time I didn't get perfection from the day before. And I got to tell you, I appreciate that so much. And that had as much to do with my success as anything, because I knew she was counting on me. I knew that when I came back the next day, she was going to have something to say about what I did or didn't accomplish the day before. So I want to know more specifically, and I know we're talking about the CRM and all that, but I want to just transition for a second to, who else do you have in place holding you accountable, and what methods are they using to do that?
That's a great question. I can't swear that I've got a real process for that. So the team culture that we've built is very open and very transparent, like truly. And so I would say, I would like to think that everybody on my team knows that we can all have the flexibility and the openness to be able to do that for each other. And I realize that they see me and Maria kind of as the leaders, the bosses, as you were. And so maybe it's a little uncomfortable to be able to have that conversation. But without question, Maria and I have that relationship. I'm very close to one of our newest agents. I've known her for a long, long time. And again, our support staff, Rebecca and Thais, our admin, our transaction coordinator, we work extremely closely together. And so they've been given, it's taken a bit of understanding, but they've been given strict instructions that this is a safe place. Like when we're at work and we're trying to get something done, where we're moving in a positive direction, there is no hurt feelings, right? It's all about the movement of the team. And so be free, let me know, I'll let you know, and let's just keep moving towards the vision.
Okay, I'm going to poll your team since they're on the call right now. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Team members, on a scale of 1 to 10, how approachable is Scott in that way? 10 being he's incredibly approachable, 1 being, oh my gosh, don't go near that guy. He's a terrorizer. All right. So as you're typing that into the comments, I can't wait to see what numbers we come back with. But as they're typing that in, what I would encourage you to do, one thing that look at this, Rebecca, come on. Rebecca's like, he's a 13. He's so approachable. All right, somebody give me a 1. I mean, come on, I'm just kidding. All right, but here's the deal. What I would encourage you to do is, I know you, and I know this isn't how you meant it, but I want to encourage, and really it's encouraging your team members. I want to encourage your team members to see you differently. I want to encourage the team members not to see you as the boss. And I'll tell you why. Because they don't work for you. It's the other way around. And I know you know that. And all great leaders do, right? But I really want to drive that point home, because there's so many team members out there that think they work for someone. But the reality is, your job is to support them. Your job is to provide them with the tools, technology, systems, talent, the help, the support, the leads, everything they need to succeed, and to remove roadblocks. That means you work for them, man, right? Wouldn't you agree?
No question about it. And can I comment a little further on that?
Please. Yeah.
As far as that it's, so to me, it's all about mindset. Everything's about mindset, right? We were having a discussion internally just the other day about the mindset of an employee versus an entrepreneur, right? And it's interesting to me that, and I can go into as much detail here as you want. We've been thinking about this a long time, but when somebody is an employee, you're paying them X number of dollars to make X number of calls. You've got hundreds of ISAs in your life, right?
Yeah.
They make a significant number of calls. But we've seen that when somebody from that department moves to being an entrepreneur, they're no longer being paid for a task, but their pay is now effectively limitless.
Yeah.
Production drops significantly.
That is correct.
Why is that, Michael? Why is it that when you're paying somebody to do a job by hourly rate, they feel like they have to do a certain task well, but when they're doing it for themselves, that falls apart?
Okay, so before I answer that, I'm going to answer that, but I want to take it a step further, and I want you to think about this, and it's going to be the same question at the end. Why is it that someone will be, they're a real estate agent, they're given all this opportunity, they have all this opportunity to go, sell as many homes as they want, make as much money as they want. All they got to do is be disciplined. The more disciplined they are, the more money they make, right? The more they use the systems, tools, technologies, and the more they get in there and make those phone calls every single day, then guess what? The more money they make. And yet so many, and just in the last 6 months, so many have gotten out of this business. And what happened to them? Well, they went and had to get a real job. And when they go to that real job, someone's paying them by the hour or by the month, and they're buying their time. And what now has to happen is, instead of having all the freedom that they have as an entrepreneur, now they have accountability. Now they have to do exactly what that person tells them to do 8 hours a day, or they lose their job. Now imagine, so here's the answer to your question. Imagine if I were treating my job as a real estate agent with as much respect and discipline as I had to treat the job that someone's paying me hourly or monthly to do. Imagine what would happen. Imagine how much money I could make if I did that. I'm talking to everybody on this call. I'm talking to Scott's team members. I'm talking to every other real estate agent and loan officer, anybody self-employed out there. I'm telling you, if you treated your career like you were working for somebody else and getting paid by the hour or by the month, and were required to produce, or you would lose that opportunity, imagine how much better you could be doing. So that's the answer to the question, Scott. The difference is accountability. It 100% comes back to accountability. And so why do people get into real estate? What's the number one reason why people get into real estate?
Time, freedom of time.
That's right. They want freedom, right? And what's the number one killer of real estate agents?
Freedom of time.
Freedom. That's exactly right. That is literally correct. And so really what we have to do is we have to self-impose boundaries, right? If we can self-impose the right boundaries, the amount of success we can have in this business is, like you said, limitless. It really is. And so, and I like the way Rebecca just said this. Rebecca Stone Hawkins, I'm assuming, is on your team. Is that correct?
He is.
Rebecca says, I am working for someone else. I'm working for future me. I'm working for my husband. I like that. That's wonderful, Rebecca. Great way to look at it. And not only that, you're working for your kids, your future kids, should you end up having kids, whatever posterity comes behind you, you're working for them too. And what I mean by that is the harder you work now, the more time you'll have for them later. The more disciplined you are at work, the more focused on them you can be after work. The more driven you are during the week, the more fun you can have on the weekend. But you can't really have one without the other, because if you're not focused at work and you're not driven at work, what happens? You end up broke. And when you're broke, you're stressed out, and you don't want to be around your family all stressed out all the time. All right, Scott, I want to come back to technology. So you've got the CRM in place, and you've got action plans, and you've got, all that stuff going on. You're using a product that my daughter runs, and her husband Sawyer, called Black Hat. And so tell us a little bit about Black Hat and what that does for you, and how that works with your follow-up boss. Am I right?
It does. Okay. Yeah. So, and I don't know, I am not the expert on this. The team that Madison has put together, Madison and Sawyer, has been so amazingly helpful that it's been almost plug and play for me, right? Which is amazing. It's a little bit, it feels a little bit odd that I don't have control over building that, but they've done a phenomenal job. Yeah. And so basically, Black Hat allows their system, Lofty, Chime, to pull data out of Follow-Up Boss. So when I say data, let me rephrase that. So when we get a new lead that goes into Follow-Up Boss, and all leads automatically flow into Follow-Up Boss, which is what everybody's CRM should do, Lofty, Black Hat, then sees that information, pulls it into their control center. And honestly, at that point, it's voodoo magic to me. Like, I don't know exactly what happens, inside the walls of that organization. But then from time to time, several times a week, we get a call from the department of, over there that says, hey, we've got a live transfer for you. Michael Hellickson's on the phone, and he'd like to talk to you about buying a $2.5 million beach house in Hilton Head. But again, I don't fully understand what happens between those two pieces.
Well, let me share this with you, because I've got a little bit of understanding of it. But essentially what they're doing is they have the technology is text messaging the consumer, right? And engaging them with artificial intelligence via text message that is then engaging that person, getting them to raise their hand. At the same time, the ISAs are cold calling through that list. And when someone raises their hand, the ISAs are going in and they're calling that person and saying, jumping into the conversation and saying, hey, why don't I get Scott or one of his guys on the phone with you? And then they do the warm transfer. And so here's the obvious, really great news is that it gets you a lot of hand raisers you otherwise wouldn't have got, right? So it's really cool because all of a sudden you just get the surprise. Oh my gosh, I want to buy this guy on the phone wants to buy a $2.5 million beach house in Hilton Head, right? Awesome. Okay. What we need to be careful of, though, the caution that I would give people is don't rely 100% on that technology. It is a great augmentation, but as I've told people before, and I would love for somebody to type this into the chat if you would, into the comments in Facebook here if you would, automation equals augmentation. It should not be a replacement for you guys. Just automation equals augmentation. There's no substitute for a well-skilled, well-trained real estate agent that cares to get on the phone with a customer, right? That's nothing's better than that. You got to get those agents on the phone with them. And that's why, by the way, we went to a warm transfer system instead of just setting appointments. Now, if nobody answers on the team, then yeah, they'll set an appointment. But ideally, it's best if we can get that warm transfer happening. Why? Because with the warm transfer, they get on the phone with the person that can help them the best, the fastest, and in the way that is going to have the biggest impact. So anyway, that being said, what other technologies are you using, Scott, that are having a big impact for you?
The tech stack is the two big pieces that we utilize is Follow Boss and Ylopo. Ylopo is, I'm sure you're familiar with it. For those of you that aren't out there, it's a massive marketing organization that does a ton of work from as far as lead gen and to some degree, some form of lead conversion to help us out as well. And they're deeply integrated with Follow Boss. And so it's provided a ton of benefit for us.
So let me ask you this, has there been a change for you? I know there's a lot of conversation about, Follow Boss just got bought out by, who just bought them out? Zillow just bought them out. Okay, first of all, why do you think that happened? Let's start with that. Why do you think Zillow buys Follow Boss?
Well, I mean, Zillow is looking to become. I mean, every corporation is looking to monopolize their industry, right? Zillow is the big gorilla, and so they're looking to monopolize that contact chain, that lead chain. Why wouldn't they have a contact database system?
Okay. So first of all, yes. What about this? What about the argument that, so many people have heard Zillow say over and over and over again, oh, we're not looking to be a real estate brokerage. Do you believe that? Or do you think
No, they already are, I believe, in multiple states. I mean, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they're already a real estate brokerage.
Oh, but Scott, we're just doing that because we need to be able to have the MLS access. Do you believe that? Or do you believe that, no, these guys are going to be a real estate brokerage?
No, they're trying to become a player. There's no doubt. I mean, we all know that they lost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars over the last year and a half in their iBuyer experiment. And so they're playing with the waters and trying to figure out where they can make the most profit. And moving into our world is clearly where they're headed.
So I want to hear in the comments, what do you guys think? Yes, Zillow wants to be a brokerage and compete with real estate agents out there, maybe even have those real estate agents working for them, or no, they're just going to continue to provide leads. That's all they want to do. Yes or no? Are they going to be a brokerage or not? Type it into your chat. I'd love to see what you guys think, especially you guys on Scott's team and anybody for that matter. Okay, so for the sake of argument, let's back up and let's say, okay, if they're going to be a brokerage, they got to have a CRM, right? And so they chose Follow Up Boss. Here's the next big question that's on a lot of people's minds. Is the data at risk in Follow Up Boss? Is there any concern that Zillow is going to use that data to try and access those clients some way because now they own Follow Up Boss also?
Yeah, that's the big issue. And that's the one where you almost want to be an ostrich and just put your head in the sand and not think about it, right? Because it's like you said, so some of my team that were with me know this. When we were at Houston at Business Strategy Mastermind just a short time ago, Sierra Interactive was there as a trusted vendor. And we spent a lot of time talking to them, honestly, as a potential replacement for Ylopo. Ylopo's fantastic. I love them. We're getting great returns on them. But they're expensive. And so
you're not wrong. Ylopo is very spendy. Yeah.
They are very spendy.
Great tech, though. Yeah.
They really do. And so, in our discussions with Sierra, we got to talking about, how whether or not they can kind of manipulate the same sort of information from a lead gen and to some degree conversion perspective. And Sierra's next conversation point was, you should then also bring on our CRM, right? And honestly, I'll tell you, this is not what this conversation is about. But when it comes to the tech conversation, that's where I shut it down because that's too big of a conversation. I was willing to talk about changing lead gen, but I'm not willing to talk about CRM. So that leads me back to your question. Mm-hmm. Even though Zillow Group purchased Follow Up Boss, there's nothing I can do about it. I liken it to Mark Zuckerberg, right? Mm-hmm. If they want my data, they're going to get it, whether I give them access to it or not, mm-hmm. right? And they're going to get yours, and they're going to get, the Robert Slack teams in Florida. I mean, if they want that data, chances are they've got more of it than they can do with anyway. And so there was a lot of conversations when Zillow Group bought Follow Up Boss, like, I'm out. I'm dropping Follow Up Boss. I'm going X. And I thought to myself, I'm just not. There's just too much happening there. It's not that big of a deal to little old me.
I think that's probably pretty good counsel. I don't know that I'd be too concerned about it either. I mean, think about it. It wouldn't take much. I mean, for word to get out that Zillow was stealing that data, that'd be pretty devastating to Zillow, I think. So I don't think there's too much risk of that. Now, that being said, might they use some of the information gathered there for their own nefarious purposes, to gather trends throughout the industry, that sort of thing? Sure, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did that, but I don't see them competing directly with you, like going and trying to steal your clients out there or something like that. I don't think there's any chance of that happening. So that being said, all right, let's keep moving forward. This is good stuff, by the way. So I want to talk more about tech. What other tech is in your business right now besides Ylopo, besides Black Hat, besides Follow Up Boss? What else are you using for tech in your business today?
So, I mean, a lot of other peripheral pieces that we have tied together. It's as simple as can be, but we don't need to spend a ton of time talking about it. But Google Drive is a huge part of what we do, just to keep everything kind of manipulated together. It's easy to share with. Google Calendar, right? Google plays well together. Very similar to Apple products, right? They just work.
Whoa!
I know. We're gonna roll right past that.
Blasphemy! Freaking Apple products. Whatever.
Right? So Mojo as a dialer, right? Big fan. RedX Vortex to pull neighborhood search information. These are all different pieces that we've got so that we can make sure that we're moving forward, like I said, as a successful real estate business and trying to make pieces fit.
So, you were talking about Mojo, by the way. Shameless plug. One of our partners is actually the underlying platform upon which Mojo sits. It's a white label of Prospect Boss, believe it or not. And so the actual tech is Prospect Boss. Now, I don't know if you can get it cheaper by going directly to Prospect Boss or not, but for those that are interested, go to clubwealth.com/Prospect Boss, and maybe you guys can get a little less there. Here's the next question I have for you. As a team leader, and we'll talk systems in a second. So we've done tech and we'll get into systems, but I want to know, as a team leader, have you done the math on, it's expensive to run a team. It's not for everybody. And I talk to people all the time about, you either need to be on a team or you need to be building a team. But, I see team members all over the country and in Canada, that are making upwards of $250,000, even $500,000 a year and more. And they don't have to be the team leader. They don't have to have all the downside risk and lose money occasionally. And when I say occasionally, sometimes, there's a lot of money in some months. They wouldn't be surprising to me if a lot of team leaders in November, December of this year probably lost money. And so the question, though, that I have for you is, what's it cost roughly per team member in your market? What are you spending per month to support each team member?
So I have that number exactly in my head.
And by the way, we did not talk about this ahead of time. I just sprung this. I'm glad that you have that number. I was kind of worried. I'm like, I hope I'm not putting him on the spot too much.
No, we're good. So, but I want to preface my response by saying that, so I've been with Club Wealth as a coaching client for going on 2 years now. Mm-hmm. And my first coach, we just changed coaches recently, was a woman by the name of Chelsea Dillick, and she is fantastic.
She's wonderful.
So I doubt that she's watching, but Chelsea, if you are, good to see you. So that said, when we started talking about this conversation, she cautioned me as to how to put together the number of every team member. For instance, Club Wealth. Would you give up Club Wealth if you didn't have a team? The answer to that is no. And so can I effectively put that cost of running a team, can I aggregate that over, right? So things like that. So with that said, the asterisk on that conversation, it's about $1,400 per month per team member.
Yeah. And that's super low comparatively. Like that's literally 1/10 of what I hear across the country. I have a feeling you're not factoring everything in.
That may be.
There's some global costs that you're not breaking down into a per team member budget, because $1,400 a month, that would be super cheap. But here's the real expense isn't just in the stuff that you pay for them, right? Whether it's leads or technology or the office or the lights, the computers, whatever. There's just, the staff. You start adding all that up and you really divide it out on a per team member basis. Most people I'm seeing are between $9,000 and $14,000 a month. Now, where it really gets expensive is your time, and that's the part. Like you're just barely coming out of that period of time in a career. So tier one, it's usually people are solo agent. They're just trying to figure it out. And, how do I pay my bills this month, right? Like that's kind of the big goal of a tier one. You get into tier two and somebody like you that's going to build the team, you start saying, okay, well, now I'm going to build a team. So I got to do my own production. I got to bring business in, but then I also got to go out and I got to recruit. And as soon as I recruit somebody, I got to onboard them. And then when I onboard them, I got to train them. And then I got to provide them with systems, tools, technology, support, all this other stuff. And oh, by the way, this all takes money and time. And so by taking my time, what that means is my personal production is going down. And as my personal production goes down, what's happening to me? My income is going down. So in tier two, most people take home less money than they took home in tier one. And so it was, and they begin to question, well, am I even doing the right thing? Do I even really want to build a team? Right. And that's a legitimate question in tier two, especially. Well, you're just now emerging into tier three. And as you emerge into tier three, you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You start to realize, okay, wait a minute. Finally, I've got a couple of team members over here that are doing good, that are hanging in there. And if, they're starting to be productive, and if I can just really help them be more successful and bring some more like them on board, hey, I can make a pretty decent business out of this. And yeah, that means I'm going to do a little bit less production myself, but it means that long term, if I can get into tier four where I'm doing 150 to 250 deals a year, Now I can make a nice living, and I'm not working 24/7, 365. I'm still having to work, like a normal person, but it's not horrible. Are you experiencing that? Does that feel kind of like what you've been going through?
It definitely does. In fact, a very personal, recent issue. And of course, I mean, that's satirical from you because you exactly that is what we're feeling. We were lucky enough, again, kudos to Club Wealth and Chelsea. Listen, let me take a moment and tell you, I'm sure you hear this enough, but Club Wealth has absolutely changed my business, right? Like, I'll keep this brief. So when Maria and I were started to build a team, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were with a very small brokerage. We left that brokerage. We lost our CRM. We lost 8,000 contacts in our database. It was terrible. So changing a brokerage and losing a CRM at the same time. And that was around the time we figured, okay, it's got to be, we need help. And so Club Wealth and so Chelsea. So the two of them together, but provided us with the ability to grow into a new brokerage, to grow into, the growth of our CRM and to build our team. Michael, it wasn't but 14 months ago, we left that brokerage to our new brokerage with one team member. I'm sitting on a total of 15 people now, 11 of them being agents, right? Like, I'm super proud of that. One of the things that Club Wealth helped me understand, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we're able to do that, though, is Club Wealth helped me to understand that Maria and I were working together as a singular agent, right? And Club Wealth, Chelsea, said, that's got to stop. As you grow a team, right, and you can't continue to do that. And that maybe saved my marriage as well. And Maria is laughing if she's on. I'm sure she is. So what we decided was is Maria goes to production, right? And then I go to operations. I still do production, but she's the lion's share of what we do. So in operations, it has helped me to grow the team, to recruit and train and mentor. Now, to your point, though, about being pulled, Friday and Saturday, so just a couple of days ago, I had two agents come to me in a coordinated effort and say to me, look, we're leaving you. We love you. We're leaving you because we believe that we can get better mentorship as a solo agent at a virtual brokerage. That pained me, Michael, because you're putting in all this time and all this effort, morning huddles and preparing for Tuesday sales meetings and doing one-on-ones. And two agents come to me in a conjoined effort and say, you're not doing enough. That honestly, and that was just a couple of days ago. And so it still hurts a little bit, right? I'm sure I'll experience more of this in my life, but that one was painful.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for all the kind words about Club Wealth and about Coach Chelsea. And I gotta share this with you. First of all, you're going to have that happen again and again and again and again. And really the reason why it happens is the pride cycle, because what happens is, when people are struggling, they're humble. And when they're humble, they're coachable, and they learn and they absorb, and they're all about, how can I be better? How can I do more? How can I be better? How can I improve my business, my lot in life? How, just they're really focused internally on improving. Then they start getting good. And they start having success. And by the way, when we're in that humble part of the cycle, right? When we're really coachable and humble, people are attracted to us. And so we attract not only people in our regular lives, but we also attract consumers to do business with us because of that humility. And so then as that all happens and we start to see some success, guess what happens next? It's the nature of most men. As they start to see some success, they get a little prideful. And as we get prideful, we become less humble. And as we become less humble and get more prideful, we start to repel people instead of attracting people. And so in both consciously and unconsciously. And so what happens is, this is where people get into that mindset of, well, I'm going to go somewhere else and there's something better somewhere else. Look, when you go somewhere else, you're taking you with you. I got news for you, Cupcake. You're going there. So your problems are going with you. Because 99.99% of our problems are us, right? Like, we are the problem. And so it doesn't matter where you go, you're just taking that problem with you. So I share this because, Scott, it's not going to be the last time it happens. I will also share with you, and I don't mean this in a vindictive way, and I don't mean this in a, I hope this happens kind of a way or anything like that. But the reality is, more often than not, when we see team members leave a team and they want to go be solo agents, their production goes down dramatically, more than 50%. And it's tough. and it becomes harder for them. The truth of the matter is the vast majority lack the humility to come back to the team. That being said, those that do have the humility to come back to the team end up oftentimes being incredible team members, and sometimes the best you'll ever have. So be aware of that. But kudos to you for the growth. So I'm going to ask you about that growth in a second here. But before I do, I want to talk to you about Maria for just a second. I feel like breaking into a song from The Sound of Music, Anyway, so one of my favorite songs from The Sound of Music, by the way. But here's what I want to know. You, and I think probably a little bit jokingly, but there might have been a little bit of truth to it. And I think for a lot of us there is, said something about, Club Wealth may have actually saved my marriage. And the reason I bring this up is not that I think you had a bad marriage or anything like that. I don't believe that's the case. But there are some things that we talk about inside Club Wealth that really can make a difference for a marriage. What for you did you find made the biggest difference in your relationship with Maria as you went through this process of building a business the right way?
That's a deep question. So I would have to think, that her and I would answer that very differently.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested in both answers.
Fair enough. So from my perspective, the answer to that is just learning how effectively to grow a business together. I mean, it's not easy to work with a spouse. I think everybody knows that. It's not easy to work with a family member. You do it with all four.
5 now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it takes two special people, or it takes a special group of people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that one step further and say that it's even more difficult to run a business together. And I've never built another business, and so only real estate is in my purview. But holy crap, is it stressful to build a team and to go from tier 1 to tier 2 and to tier 3, and to do that with your significant other, spending 24 hours a day. The Club Wealth, I mean, the mantra, right? I mean, for anybody that's on here that doesn't know the mantra, no success at home. Sorry, help me out, Michael.
No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, and that's it, we come back to that, right? And so it's kind of that attitude that teaches me that it has to be about more. And I know my son, who is a new real estate agent with us, my wife, who obviously is our top producer, are probably chuckling because they know that I am 24/7 real estate. And I have to, it's hard for me to shut it down at the dinner table, home, et cetera.
There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem. By the way, a lot of people would criticize you for that, Scott. I disagree with them. I take the Alex Hormozy approach. I truly believe that, if you're self-employed, your career is a major component of your life. Why wouldn't you talk about that with your family? Of course you want to talk about that with your family, especially if they're involved in the family business.
That's my attitude.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. Let's come back to logistics for a second here. Because what I caught in what you said, and I hope others caught this as well, is the importance of segmenting the workload and really segmenting your roles. You and Maria have very different roles now. Previous, you were both trying to do everything together and serve everybody together and be, blah, blah. What you've done now is you've separated those roles, correct me if I'm wrong, and you each operate in your own lane. How has that impacted your relationship?
It's 100% better. There's no question. I mean, yeah. I still remember it very clearly when we were both being real estate agents. There's a lot we do to manage a transaction. Everybody knows this, but trying to do it with somebody that you're also trying to live a life with, and you were supposed to do that, and you were supposed to do that, and that's your responsibility. And by the way, you didn't do the laundry, and so, right? I mean, and so it all explodes.
Yeah.
We actually were tasked by our coach to write job descriptions for our roles. And we're tasked, and still to this day, it's just the two of us that run the team, but have executive meetings to specifically set time aside as business partners to talk about the business moving forward, to not do it over the dinner table, to meet as if you and I, Michael, owned a business together, the way that you and I would spend an hour talking about the growth of the business, right? Absolutely.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You know, I just think that there's not enough discussion about this in real estate. And that's why the real estate industry has one of the highest divorce rates of any industry. It's not the highest, but it's up there. It's very high. And I think a lot of the reason why is because, you know, people try and live by the, well, we're in this together, so we're both going to do everything and it's our business together and blah, blah. And look, that's fine, but we have different roles. You've got to segment those roles. And then I think, again, the other big problem people have is they won't talk about it at home. They feel like it's taboo to talk business at the dinner table. Hogwash. I couldn't disagree more. My wife and I, Tara, and I love my wife. One of the greatest lessons I learned was to stay out of her lane and let her do her thing. And it's not my job to criticize how she does her job or vice versa. And we both are very good at what we do. We're both very passionate about it. We care about the business. We care about the team members. We care about the clients. And we both go about that slightly different ways. But we know that at the end of the day that we're both doing what's best for the clients, the team, and the business, right? And so, as we learned to do that, it improved our relationship as well. And same thing again with that talking to the dinner table. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. I really appreciate you sharing that. And now I'll ask you very quickly: would Maria describe this any differently? If I were to ask Maria this question, do you feel like she'd
No question. In fact, I think you just touched on a part that she would probably be more than happy to be vocal about, and something that you probably just taught me again that she has been teaching me forever. So Maria is an amazing producer. She's really, really good at what she does.
Yeah.
As the operations manager and as analytical, I often cross into her lane, right? I know that I do, and it's not welcomed. I don't use my signal. I'm just running over, right? And it doesn't end well.
So, okay, Scott. So on behalf of Maria, you can thank me later. On behalf of Maria, I'm going to challenge you that I would like you to make the commitment that you are going to stay out of her lane in the coming 60 days. In fact, between now and Mastermind in Paradise, which, by the way, you need to be at, it's a whole nother thing. Now that you're in Tier 3, you qualify. Congratulations. Very exciting. And so you need to come to Maui with us. But between now and Mastermind in Paradise, I want you to stay out of her lane to the degree that not once does she ever have to bring up, "Hey, you're in my lane there. Could you step out of it?" Would you make that commitment?
I'm trying to figure out how to quantify that, but
I know how to quantify it. If she has to tell you to get out of her lane, then guess what? You've violated the lane. So I want to know that for the next, what is it, 60 days or something like that between now and not a little bit more maybe. Now, between now and Mastermind in Paradise, I just want to know that you're going to stay out of her lane to the extent that she doesn't ever have to ask you to move.
Deal.
All right, good stuff. So the cost of non-completion we'll talk about later, but essentially, there's going to be something big. I think Maria should get to choose what the consequence is. We'll talk to her about that. All right, that being said, let's talk about other things. Systems. What do you want to talk to us about with systems? What systems do you have in your business that you think are especially important?
So from an agent perspective or from a team perspective? Because those are kind of
either
different.
one, both. So, whether it's a solo agent or a team, tell us about systems.
Well, I tell you, from a team perspective, one of the biggest things that I learned recently-ish. So I came to Seattle, the Pacific Northwest Mastermind. Great time. And what I took from that was that team leaders who are building successful teams are segmenting their teams into effectively tiers, right? And so I brought that back. And I think that, there's team members on here that might say we're still struggling with that a little bit. But the A, B, and C team structure, that's what we call it. But that's been that as far as a system is concerned, basically allowing the team members, and this is what the benefit that I see for them, and I hope they see it as well, but allowing them to see that here's the qualification for these rewards. It's not random pick and choose. It's not round robin leads. It's not favoritism in any way, shape, or form. There's a clearly defined process, a clearly defined system that says, if you do this, you will receive this. If you're not willing to do that, that's fine, but you'll receive this other, right?
Yep. That's huge. I love that because, and I think you're right because, there's a place for everybody. If somebody wants to be more of a flexible, maybe a casual agent, so to speak, right? There's still a place for them on your team. They don't have to want to be the Navy SEAL of real estate. But at the same time, you're not going to spend as much money on that particular agent. You're not going to give them as many leads, and that's okay because they're not showing up to the office every day and making the calls every day and all that stuff. They're a little bit more casual about it. Whereas you got a Navy SEAL on your team, right? You got that person that, man, I'm just going to crush it every day. I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to be game on. Well, you got to provide them with more. You got to give them more and better leads. You got to give them more opportunity for growth. You got to give them more that they can kind of sink their teeth into. And when you do, that person just thrives, right? And then you've got your ones that are even beyond that. And so, I love that you've divided it up that way. And we're seeing that across the country. We're seeing, and in Canada, we're seeing agents that are dividing up their teams that way. They have happier team members. They have team members that as a group produce better. And what I mean by that is even the ones that are on the C team end up producing better because they're not being pressured constantly to be something they don't want to be. And by the way, your Navy SEAL team members, well, they're producing better too, because guess what? They're getting more attention. They're getting more leads. They're getting more everything. And they're not feeling like they're constrained by the people that are on the C team that don't want to be quite as focused and as disciplined. And so everybody wins. Everybody gets to kind of be in their lane and they get the kind of attention and love that they need based on the lane that they want to be in. So I love that you're doing it. By the way, I'm getting a lot of likes and loves. I got one little cry or one little teary eye there. I'm sorry about the teary eye, guys. I don't know what I just said that made you sad, but man, you're making me sad. So anyway, that's not true. You're not making me sad at all. I'll be fine. So what I want to do, Scott, as we get near the end here, we've only got a couple minutes left. First of all, I've got two things I want to ask you about, but I want to see is there anything that you want to share with us that we haven't talked about yet?
Nothing that we've not already talked about.
Okay.
I will say, and this is going to, again, it's so I really not meant, we didn't set any of this up, right? In fact, I was anxious coming into this call because you're kind of a dominant speaker. Thank you for having these large events, Michael. We really appreciate, I take people to these events that have never been or to have been to another large event, right? Some of your competitors or even like a brokerage large event, these national brokerage events. And they tend to be big, huge parties and they're a lot of fun. Every time somebody goes to a Club Wealth event, they come back with an amazing amount of value, right? And again, it sounds like a shameless plug, but even for my team, we put contests in place to get them there. And I want everybody to hear, please, please, please make an effort to go to these things. I mean, as a coach, we want to see you there, but they're life-changing. For the next month or two, it fades. But for the next month or two, it really does change your business.
Well, and that's what it takes because you got to relight the fire. You got to fill that bucket up, right? Like you got to do this on a regular basis. And you're right there. It lasts for a period of time, and then you got to go to another one to kind of get that that jazz again. Get jazzed up again. And so I appreciate that a lot. And so that being said, I want to ask you about two things that I think are on everybody's mind right now in the real estate industry. I'll give you the second first, and then I'll give you the big one. The second one is the lawsuits. There's lawsuits out there right now where they're coming after the real estate industry like crazy. It's almost like the ambulance chasers. You got all these attorneys out there that are trying to sue agents and brokerages, saying that there's been racketeering and this big conspiracy to charge consumers more than they should, and blah 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 blah, which just cracks me up because anyway, don't even get me started. What I'm curious about though, from your standpoint, what kind of impact is this going to have on the typical agent out there? What kind of impact is it going to have on teams and brokerages? What are your thoughts? Where does this go? Should we be worried? Are we all going out of business? What's the scoop?
No, I don't think we're all going out of business. Will it impact the typical agent? Absolutely. I think it will, but only because the typical agent doesn't necessarily have, and I don't mean it to be mean, but the typical agent doesn't have the foundational knowledge to understand how to turn this into an opportunity. How this actually is not, the end of an era, so to speak. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. And again, like the Zillow group discussion we had, I figure those things are so far above me. Like we handle what we can handle. Control the controllables, right?
I love that you just said that. Yes.
So who cares is when it comes down to it. Now, that said, prepare. And so on our team, there we go. So it's an opportunity. For instance, we do the right thing even when no one is looking, right? So that was one of the big issues is transparency. Fair enough. That's not a problem with us. Yep. And hopefully all agents understand that. Salesmen and agents should not be looked down upon. We're advisors and guides, and it's a shame that people look at salespeople as negative people. It bothers me to no end. But at the same time, if you're strictly a buyer's agent out there, use this as an opportunity. I mean, how amazing is it that if our commission is no longer being controlled by the co-op of the listing agent, we can now affect our own commission, right? Like nobody's telling me now what I could make when I sell a house as a buyer's agent. I can negotiate and provide my own value. I just got a pay raise.
I love it. Well, and to your point, when you talk about value, I've always said price is only an issue in the absence of value, right? And so people will pay, people talk about the travel agents and, real estate agents are going to be like travel agents. They're going to go away, blah, blah. First of all, travel agents didn't go away. In fact, the ones that remain are making way more than they made back when there was a gajillion travel agents out there. The difference is that it whittled that industry down to the best of the best of the best of the best. And I think you're going to see the same thing in real estate. And to your point, it's going to force everyone to be more transparent. It's going to be more professional, just like with attorneys. I mean, when have you ever engaged with an attorney without a retainer letter? You're going to, or a retainer agreement. You're going to sign a retainer before the attorney is going to do anything for you. Well, guess what? Real estate's headed the same direction, and it's a great thing. I think it's fantastic. So, okay, last question for you. And by the way, let me back up. The controllables piece, you had me at hello. I loved it, man. I freaking love that. All right, so let's come back to interest rates. I want to ask you about interest rates, and I know you don't control interest rates, but what do you think is going to happen? What's if you had a crystal ball, where interest rates going to go? What's going to happen with the market in the next 12 months?
So we just spent time this morning talking about the 10-year Treasury and how the 10-year Treasury affects interest rates and how it is declining.
What does that mean? Does that mean rates go down or up?
Rates hopefully are rates are on their fifth straight week of going down, right? And so ideally we're going to see a 6 week on that. I believe, and this is coming from people who are smarter than me, that rates will continue to go down. And with the hope, the belief, the crystal ball discussion is that we're going to be somewhere in the 5s by the spring buying season.
Wow, man! I'll tell you right now, we get into the what do you think happens if we get into the 5s by the spring buying season? What do you think is going to happen? 2021,
2022 all over again. Because we know that the largest demographic of buying age people is headed towards us, right? We've got 7 more years of that. The average age of a buyer being 34 years old now, and there's a huge number of people that are moving into that age range. Currently, there's a pent-up demand. We all know people like this because they can't afford a house right now. Housing is elevated, right? Interest rates are elevated. And so there's tens of millions of people that are waiting to buy a house. At the same time, we've got this lock-in scenario where sellers aren't willing to sell their house because I've got my house at 3.2% interest rate. I'm not selling and going to 7.5%. Bring interest rates down to a comfortable level. All those sellers decide to list. All those buyers come out. Prices of houses are going to shoot up, and we're going to be crazy again. We're going to be writing 10, 12, 15 offers on a listing.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I think you may be onto something here. You talk about the prices shooting up. You start talking 2020 or 21, 22 again. You could be very right about that. Now, by the way, you just based on your comments, I got to ask you about this. There's potential legislation now I just heard about this morning coming out that would preclude hedge funds. It's seeking to preclude hedge funds from buying single family properties. What do you think of that? Do you think that that'll pass? Do you think it's good or bad? What are your thoughts?
Well, obviously that's we're talking very opinionated here. I don't think that passes because the people that pass those kind of things are the same people that run those hedge funds. So I seriously doubt that passes. Whether or not it provides a ban on those organizations buying properties, I had read that at the very least, they're going to have to give up 10% of their portfolio annually. So you buy 100 houses, they have to sell 10 back into the market. I'd be fine with that, right? At least they're giving something back. But it's a good thing. If that happens, if it can pass, that puts the hands back into it puts the housing market back into the control of Main Street.
Yeah.
Right. It lets capitalism take over, not the corporations.
It's interesting to me. First of all, I agree. It's interesting. Well, let me back up. I agree and I disagree because the corporations get to benefit from capitalism too. However, you look at, I'm a traditionally pretty conservative guy, and yet I look at Germany, which is traditionally a very liberal country, and they have a law in place that precludes corporations from buying single-family residences as well, and for the same reasons, right? Because you've got to protect that middle class, you've got to protect the American dream, you got to allow people to get into that entry-level home, build some equity, so they can eventually take advantage of that equity, go buy their next home, go buy investment properties, whatever. And when it's done through Wall Street, well, we all know it's not the little investor that makes the money; it's the big boys. And so I think it's very interesting legislation to say the least, and I'm interested to see where it goes. That being said, we're out of time. Scott, I want to thank you. So first of all, tell us what markets you cover, and then I want to know if someone wants to get a hold of you, they want to send you a referral, want to do business with you, just want to pick your brain. How would they get a hold of you?
So lowcountrylovegroup.com is the website. You can reach me at scott@lowcountrylovegroup.com. My phone number is 843-414-2999. You're welcome to use any of those tools. Happy to take a referral from anywhere in the country and receive your client referrals as well. Our market, we're licensed in the state of South Carolina. Effectively, we're most knowledgeable about coastal South Carolina. So everywhere from Savannah, Georgia, up to Charleston, basically, and everywhere in between. So if you're looking to come to Hilton Head, Beaufort, South Carolina, hoorah if you're a Marine, we'd love to help you out.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, really appreciate your time today. Very insightful. Super appreciate it. I appreciate everybody that's on. And I was looking to see if there was any questions before we wrap up. Do I have any questions from anybody on Facebook right now for Scott? This is your last chance to ask him anything you want. And if you're on his team, ask the most embarrassing thing you possibly can. It's totally fine. But whatever you've got, just type it in the chat right now. What questions do you have for Scott? We're going to give it a second because there's a little bit of a delay between our conversation and Facebook. And so I'm waiting for those comments to get typed in. But Scott, I got to tell you, it's fun doing these shows. We'll break this up into a bunch of little, reels and that sort of thing. And, speaking of social media, hold on. Benjamin Cook, he came up with, he's one of my team members, and he came up with something that may or may not be embarrassing for you. He's calling it the shower revelation notepad. Benjamin, let me help you out with that. It's called Success in the Shower, baby. All right. So, Scott, I understand you've got the Club Wealth Success in the Shower notepad. The question is, have you been using it?
So I don't know what Benjamin is referring to, but I posted on the Club Wealth Mastermind page that my daughter did, my 13-year-old daughter. Hold
on. Did you just say your 13-year-old daughter is having success in the shower? Awkward. Okay.
Right? I'm not sure exactly how to respond to that. But the takeaway from that was that, so her name is Amelia, and we took her to Business Strategy Mastermind, and we came back with the Success in the Shower notepad. For those of you that don't know what that is, you can take notes in the shower, waterproof notepad and pencil. She had used my shower one day, and I went in the next day, and she had written positive messages for me and Mom on that. And from a 13-year-old, right, where you're not really sure what direction is going to go, coming back from Business Strategy Mastermind to take that sort of messaging from it, it was heartfelt.
That is fantastic. I love hearing that one. It's funny because Celine, is Celine on your team as well?
She is.
Celine says, my 9-year-old daughter uses it to write short stories in the shower. That's awesome. I love that. That is fantastic. And to your point, I love it when, it just inspires, a kid or a spouse to write, nice notes to their spouse or loved ones. And, I tell you, some of the best ideas come to me in the shower, and it's nice to have that waterproof notepad that I can just go jot that down. And I got to tell you, it's really been powerful for us. So hopefully you guys get
a great idea.
What's that?
It's a great idea.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's fantastic. All right. That being said, Scott, we got to run. Have an awesome day. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. And Scott Love, thank you so much, Coach. Appreciate all the value that you bring to everybody in Club Wealth and on your team. And just everywhere you go, man, you're just surrounded by value. And thank you, Maria, for sharing him with us. We appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Michael.
You bet. Oh, Rebecca, if you need one of those Success in the Showers, just go to clubwealthhelp.com, clubwealthhelp.com. That'll put you in a Zoom meeting with a bunch of my team members. Will be sitting in there waiting for you to jump on, and they'd be happy to hook you up with one of those notepads. They'll tell you all about it. So, all right. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.
87%. Yeah, that's the percentage of all real estate agents that get in the business today that'll be gone in 2 years. Let me tell you something. Why is there so much turnover in real estate? Because it isn't easy. And because most people don't know exactly what they need to do to get to the next level. Now look, regardless of whether you're brand new to the industry or you're a team leader, you've got 40 people on your team and you just want to get to the next level. If you're doing 10 transactions a year, you want to get to 25. You're doing 500 transactions a year, you want to get to 1,000. You're at 1,000, you want to get to 10,000. Let me tell you something. You need the right coach. Why? Because Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. This is for people of all levels. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% guarantee you, promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did.